Now, having a solid strategy and a plan for how you're going to navigate your way around the golf course is arguably as important as your technique. But don't take my word for it. Peter Finch, do golfers overlook the importance of decision-making and course management?
Sometimes yes, but also golf is a very difficult and hard sport that takes the smartest amongst us and turns us into gibbering wrecks. So hopefully we can help you out today.
Indeed. So we're going to try and help golfers take fewer shots from 3 different distances, 150, 300 and 450 yards, with the help from data from ShotScope to hopefully help you lower your scores. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so Pete, the first distance we're talking about is 150 yards. Now this could be a par 3, as we've got here. It could be an approach shot into a par 4 or a par 5.
Yeah.
When you've got this distance for your next shot, what are the things that you're thinking about in terms of making sure you hit the right distance and getting it as close to the flag as possible?
First thing I think about probably is what I'm going to have for my tee. Kind of what I look like that morning. Trying to get over an intimate feeling of self-loathing about myself. And then once I'm past that, then it's all about club selection.
Yes.
It's an important process to go through. So with 150 yards, I think one of the most common issues that I see, certainly with golfers coaching on the course, is a vast overestimating of how far they hit the ball. So I think at a driving range, for example, you could be there hitting an 8-iron and it's going around the 150 sign. We're outdoors, there's different conditions here, we're off grass. Usually, golfers hit the ball a lot shorter than they say, which is why, again, like something like a ShotScope and actually tracking your stats, it can be very eye-opening how far you actually hit golf clubs. So that's the first thing. Club selection, hugely, hugely important. Then we just spoke about conditions. So today we got the wind into off the right-hand side. If you're going to play a little draw with that, it's going to be lessened, but not as much. If you try and hit a fade into that, it's going to take even more distance off. And then you want to be looking at the hazards. We've got a big bunker short right here for me, ladies. That is deep, that is going down into the very depths of hell. So you don't want to be in there. You want to make sure you get over. So if you are in two minds, like, is a 9-iron going to be enough? Do I need to hit an 8-iron? Hit the longer club. Hit the longer club.
Yeah. And if you look at the data from ShotScope, it tells us that an average golfer, so 15 handicapper, averages 92 feet proximity away from the hole with a 7-iron, which is their most common club. So, and then if you go down the handicap scale, as people get better, their proximity reduces. So would you say it's a combination of having a bit more speed allows you to hit less club, but then also strike as well?
I mean, more speed usually means more distance, but that usually means more loft. If you hit more loft, it's more forgiving. It's just as simple as that. Loft equals forgiveness. But if you want to work on overall speed, the fact is that if you hit your driver further, you're going to have less distance in as well. So it's all, part of the same cycle. But again, it depends on swing speed's an interesting one, because generally, if a golfer tries to hit an 8-iron harder, their strike will decrease as far as their consistency is concerned. Yeah, if they hit a 7-iron and swing a little bit easier, their strike consistency will probably increase and they'll get the distance that they want. So that's probably the main thing that I see without like delving into, an individual technique.
So quality of contact is obviously really important.
Yeah.
How do you go about, or how would you about coaching someone to improve the quality of contact over a mid-iron shot of this distance from a nice fairway lie? What are the keys that people need to take away from this video?
Well, firstly, it'd be like an assessment lesson that I'd probably sell them onto a package worth about 250 to 300 quid. I'd probably string them along for a series of weeks before selling them another one. But if they were after immediate
maybe
results,
a slightly quicker fix.
We want to be trying to ensure low point control. With irons especially, you want to be hitting the ball first, you want to be making ground contact after. So that's where you kind of take your divot. Now, again, it's a very difficult thing to coach because everyone has different swings and all the rest of it. A real simple one that you can do, a super, super simple test, is you can do this on the course or you can do this at the range. If you just take a tee, I'm going to tee this ball up. So we are on a par 3 here, but I'm going to take a separate tee and I'm just going to place it about a couple of inches in front of the ball. Now, what my goal here is not to hit the ball. My goal here is to strike the tee, which is in front of the ball. Now, what that allows me to do is very quickly try and shift the low point of my arc ahead of the ball. So if I hit the second tee, I should hit the ball with a downward descending angle of attack. And that leads me to be able to control loft a lot more, which is absolutely key if you want to get the appropriate distance out of your irons and you want to control trajectory. So it's a very simple drill to use. And you're going to ask me to do it now, aren't you?
Well, I was going to say, so do amateurs tend to, when they're doing it wrong, they tend to not be hitting the ball with a descending blow?
I mean, when a ball is, especially when a ball is on the turf, the reaction of a lot of golfers is to try and lean back and try and help the golf ball in the air. With this drill, the reason it's good is because it gives direct feedback. Like if you clip the ball cleanly off the tee and you don't hit the second one, you know that you've not struck down properly. It's just an instantaneous way of feedback.
Well, let's see it then. You've talked the talk here. So obviously with this particular shot, you're only focusing on really trying to hit that tee after the ball.
So I've got an 8-iron here. It's kind of strongly into wind. This should be enough to get over, but all my goal is here is to try and take a divot, try and clip the second tee.
Well, you've definitely taken a divot and it's curling back nicely. Just right at the pin. Lovely shot. So there you go. If you struggle from this distance or you want to reduce your proximity to the hole from 150 yards, follow Pete's tips, try that drill, and you'll be hitting the ball close in no time. Right, Pete, we're moving up in distance. We are now 300 yards away. We're on the 17th hole here at Formby Ladies Golf Club. It's a drivable par 4 for some,
Yes.
but not all.
Yeah, I mean, I think with any hole of this distance, if you can have the ability to go for the green, you probably should. I mean, stats-wise, it's pretty simple. The closer to the green that you get, even if you're in the rough, you've got a better chance of getting up and down. It's as simple as that. The only complications really come in as far as around danger. You know, if you've got a green at 300 yards, but it's surrounded by a lake, it's probably better to lay up. But if you do have the opportunity to go for it and you do have the distance, you're not compelled to, but you probably should.
Okay. So let's say you are going for the green on this particular hole, you know you can reach it. What are the other things that you're thinking about in terms of your strategy, where you're aiming? Are you shaping the ball a certain way?
So, I mean, course strategy is also dependent on course knowledge. So as you look down this hole, you can see there's gorse off to the left of the green. Obviously, you don't want to be going in that, you're not going to find your ball. But you can see from here that there's gorse and heather to the right of the green. Now, I know, because I've played here before, that gorse and heather stops at about 250 yards. And after it, at this time of year, it is quite low. So I can take aim over the right-hand side of this hole, over the gorse, over the rough, almost towards the 18th tee. And I know that if the wind brings it back, it's going to be getting near the green. But even if it stays straight, I'm actually just going to have a chip across.
Yeah.
So if I can manage to get it in that space, there's no danger. I should be okay.
You're minimising the risk of finding bunkers, gorse, penalty areas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but even I'd rather be in a bunker 10 yards away from the green than 160 yards away in the fairway.
Absolutely, that makes sense. But what if, for amateur golfers, mid to high handicappers who don't have the ability to reach the green?
Yeah.
What should their approach be?
I mean, if you don't have the ability to reach the green, but you are confident with the driver, there's no reason why you shouldn't still hit that. Again, the closer the better. But then you need to take into account what the hazards are. So there's a bunker out here, it's about 180 yards off the tee, and then the next bunker after that is by the green. So you do have this large patch of grass where you can land the golf. I mean, the obvious way to do it is to just try and think back from the hole. So I've got 300 yards. I know if I hit a 200-yard shot, it's in the fairway, I'm going to have a 100-yard pitch. That's a very comfortable number for me, because then that decides almost what the club is going to be off the tee. Like if you want to leave yourself 100 yards, okay, do the calculation. I'm terrible at maths, but I'll ask one of my playing partners. Okay, I need to hit something 200 yards.
Okay. But in terms of driver technique, if you were going to hit driver or people were going to hit driver, what are the key things people really need to focus on?
I mean, setup-wise between the driver and the iron, if you're going to lay up or go for it, is obviously different. On the previous hole, as far as 150 yards, we have a drill as far as striking down. With the driver, you want to be striking up. So for that, we just want to be making sure that we're getting set up appropriately. So my line is going to be to the right of this hole. I'm going to mark just over the gorse. I'm going to start with my feet together. I'm going to take a little fan out with my lead foot. I'm going to take a big step with my trail foot. And I know that puts this ball position pretty much just inside of the lead foot. Now from there, I've got a little bit of spine tilt naturally as my right hand goes down, so the center of my chest is after the ball. Now on the previous hole, we spoke about how we want to be kind of covering the ball, hitting the ball first and then a divot. With the driver, we want the chest to be staying just slightly behind the ball. If we can do that, then we can strike up and actually optimize launch.
Yeah.
Which again, for the right to left wind here, this should help. It's a little bit into though. I'm not entirely sure I'll be able to get there today, but
well, let's give it a go.
No, I take it all back. I do actually forget sometimes I'm not a terrible golfer. Yeah, that's on the green.
It might actually be tracking pretty close to the
Yeah,
hole.
that's actually.
We'll have to go and see how close it is.
Oh, yeah, that's just literally just run off the back of the green.
A great shot nonetheless. But just quickly, so if golfers are playing it safe, maybe they're more confident with an iron, obviously they're taking the trouble out of play, what briefly tips, especially long irons in particular, because they can be quite hard to hit, can't they?
So I want to try and play an accurate shot here, and I know that I have a 4-iron that's going to be able to carry this first bunker. With the wind hard off the right, I'm actually going to try and play the shape of the hole. Visually, that's easier for me. Like, you don't have to. If you ignore everything and you just think about the ball flying through the air, you can land it wherever you want. But with this particular hole, a little bit left to right, I feel I can start the ball quite central and just hold it against the wind. Now, ball position-wise is going to be further back with a long iron, but actually, technique-wise, it's going to be quite similar to the last hole. So I'm going to take that little step with the left, I'm going to take a slightly bigger step with the right, so the ball position is just forward of center. My alignment here is down the center of the fairway, and I'm just going to try and play a fade back into the wind.
Perfect.
So what happens now is the wind holds that up, so it's not going to go too far right, it's definitely not going to go off to the left-hand side, and I've just left myself in the fairway with a pitch.
There you go, so two different approaches there. Generally speaking, you're better off being as far down the hole as you can from 300 yards. As long as you're staying out of those penalty areas, bunkers, it should help your scores come down. Hello Pete, we meet again.
Hello.
We are now 450 yards away, which is a pretty long par 4 by anyone's standards. Now we know, looking at the ShotScope data, that you are better off statistically to hit driver.
Yes.
But is there some nuance to it, depending on the situation and also the type of hazards that lay ahead at a particular driving distance for you?
I mean, I think as a general rule, like you said, if you can hit driver, you should hit driver. But the mitigating factors are, of course, if you are, for example, an awful driver of the golf ball and you're not confident, you might be better off, obviously, laying back, hitting an iron, hitting a 3, whatever it may be. So we do have to say that. We do have to understand that you've got to put the work in to become a good driver. Also, the types of hazards and the types of hole that you're on have a huge effect. So on this hole, for example, here at Formula Ladies, it's a relatively wide fairway, but then either side of the fairway, there isn't any rough, it's just into the heather. Now heather, absolute nightmare to get out of. Down there about 270 yards, there's a gorse bush as well, that's in play. Then further beyond that, about 310, which is probably reachable today, there's a fairway bunker. So all of these things need to be taken into account. And of course, if you're a handicap golfer, just because it's a long hole of 450 yards and it's got a par 4 marked on the card, doesn't mean you have to play it like that. You can play it like a par 5. You can break it down and try and play it as a par 5 rather than a par 4. Then all of a sudden, it makes it easy to say, okay, well, I'm going to lay up off the tee. Then I'm going to hit a second short of the green. I'm going to wedge on and try and make a 5 the old-fashioned way. But also a really kind of useful tip to have, and this is great if you're kind of trying to reduce your handicap. If you go through the scorecard before you go out and play, and let's say you are off 15, just put a mark next to the 1 to 15 stroke indexes, add a shot on to those holes. So if it's a long par 3, for example, stroke index 13, play it as a par 4 in your head. And there, all of a sudden, things become a lot easier, a lot more manageable. So rather than like chasing an expected score, you give yourself a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah, and you're way less likely to go into bunkers or penalty areas if you're hitting less club, more loft. Should give you a bit more control, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, when you're trying to avoid hazards, it's all about, if you get a bogey on this hole, it's fine. If you get a treble bogey on this hole, it's more of an issue. So if you can plot your way around all these troubles, it's going to be a huge benefit.
Taking the big numbers off the card, right?
Yeah.
And is there, I mean, I've got the ShotScope G6 watch here, which is great because it gives you whole maps and aerial views of what lies ahead. Is that something that people could find useful in that regard?
I would say that if you're a golfer who just wants to know about hazards and you want general distances like front, middle, back, a watch is a way to go rather than a laser. Lasers, I use both on the golf course, but I think a watch is so useful because you can just have a very quick look, you can understand what's out there at a glance, and then you can plan a strategy from there.
Yeah. Well, we already talked about the fact that for most golfers, driver is the best play. So shall we see you hit one here on this beautiful hole?
I never hit driver on this hole, by the way.
But
I always just hit an iron. Like this, I'm going to have to start this on the right heather, let the wind bring it back.
Let's hope it does. Wind's just pushing it left a bit.
Yeah.
But you're out of the heather and you'll be able to find that one.
Yeah, it's actually not the end of the world down there.
So what would be your sort of key takeaways from this distance for golfers who really struggle from 450 yards?
So if you want to improve, you want to get better, you're going to have to improve your distance. It's as simple as that. Like driving is the key. Right. If you're a good driver of the golf ball, it opens up a whole avenue of possibilities. It's why so many people talk about now when they're starting kids in the game, starting from the tee, going down the hole rather than starting from the green, coming back, because if you can develop distance at a young age and you can develop distance, you can then control that. Speed is important. But then if you don't have that, then yeah, you're gonna have to fall back on strategy. You're gonna have to accept that you might not be able to smash your driver everywhere.
There you go. So there you have it. I hope you found that useful. Pete, did you enjoy that?
Indeed I did, mate. Extolling wisdom to the golfing masses is what I do.
We try our best. If you did like it, make sure you click the like button down below, comment which tip was the most useful you're going to go and try out on the golf course. If you do like the look of any of the ShotScope products featured in this video, I've put some handy links in the description below so you can get your hands on those. But for myself and Pete Finch here at Formby Ladies Golf Club, it's goodbye from us. We'll see you next time.